Okay, today we're going to be learning about relative pronouns. So get out your note sheet and we'll start. What are relative pronouns? A relative pronoun is a pronoun that introduces a relative clause. It is called a relative pronoun because it relates to the word that its relative clause modifies. The word, phrase, or idea modified is called the antecedent. A relative pronoun is used to connect a clause or phrase to a noun or pronoun. Here is an example. The person who phoned me last night is my teacher. In the example above, who relates to the person which who phoned me last night modifies. Introduces the relative clause, who phoned me last night. So, who would be the relative pronoun? There are 5 basic relative pronouns. Who, whom, whose, which, that. Who and whom are generally only for people. Whose is for possession, which is for things. That can be used for things and people only in defining relative clauses. So take a second to pause and fill in your notes and we'll go on. Now we're going to be talking about the preceding noun. A person or a thing, those are both preceding nouns. For a person, the relative pronoun would be who, whom, that, and whose. Examples of this. Do you know the girl who? He was a man, that. An orphan is a child whose parents. So it'd be who, that, and whose would be the relative pronouns. For things, which, that, and whose. Some examples of this are, do you have a computer, which, the oak tree, the oak, the oak, a tree, that. This is a book, whose author. The relative pronouns would be which, that, and whose. Restrictive relative pronouns. Restrictive relative pronouns that introduce a restrictive relative clause are not separated from the main clause by comma. Relative pronoun used as a subject of a restrictive relative clause. This is the house that had a great Christmas decoration. So that would be the relative pronoun, and it's restricted because there is no comma. Here are some more examples of some other relative pronouns. One of these is restrictive, one of these is non-restrictive. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Whose is the relative pronoun. Lamb is the preceding noun. It is restrictive because there is not a comma. It followed her to school one day, which was against the rules. Which is the relative pronoun. There is not a preceding noun. It is non-restrictive because there is a comma. Okay, so pause, fill in your notes, and we will go on to the guided practice. Okay, first put your name on the paper, like Jeff or whatever your name is, and then you will annotate this passage, A Very Long Life. So annotate it, and then come back after you're done with that. Timothy the tortoise was about 160 years old when he died at his home near Exeter in November 2005. When is the relative pronoun. So what you're going to do after you've annotated is you're going to go through, find all the relative pronouns, and you're going to underline it and then draw a line and to whatever. Just draw a line to somewhere and put if it's restrictive or not. So since this has no comma, it is restrictive. So put restrictive. And then you're going to put what the preceding noun is. Since this one doesn't have a preceding noun, you're just going to put none. So you're going to do that, and then try a few more. Timothy, whose early life was spent at sea, was thought to be the oldest resident in Britain at the time. Whose is the relative pronoun. So you're just going to draw a line up here, and you're going to put that it is non-restrictive and that the preceding noun is Timothy. After that, you're going to do the same thing with There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly. This is a poem that a lot of people know, but this is just a part of it. You're going to annotate this. It's like, this whole thing right here. 1 second. So you're going to annotate all this, and then you are going to find the relative pronouns, like who, the same thing that you did with the last poem. And then after you're done with that, you're going to go on to your assessment. So take a second to do that, and then come back. Okay, you're going to come, after you've done your notes and your guided practice, you're going to come to get the paper out of the folder that says Relative Pronouns Assessment, the Fall Festival. You're going to read this, and then you're going to answer some questions on relative pronouns. So you should annotate this, and then you can do the same thing for whose. So what we did in the guided practice with relative pronouns, you can do with this. You can get extra credit by doing that with every relative pronoun. After you're done with that, if you want to do that, you're going to come down here and answer questions 1 through 4. And then you will be done. Bye!